Brad, just what's your reaction to Al Horford getting second team all defensive and Marcus Smart didn't get anything?
My reaction is I think those guys are motivated by team success, and I think their team success and their impact on team success and our defense speaks for itself. So I don't think they're going to lose sleep over an award or not. To me, they're easily both all defensive players. I thought Baines has an all defensive year as well. I realize you can't take multiple people from one team. Maybe that's the deal, but those guys all, along with our young guys, everybody was really committed on that end of the floor all year, and it was led by those three guys.
I know you're contemplating, as you always do, changes to the starting lineup. How's it looking tonight?
Well, I'm done contemplating. I was done contemplating this morning. I actually got in this discussion on the radio show earlier about what if you already had made your decision or you're still contemplating, you just didn't want to say it. It probably was more I just didn't want to say it than I was contemplating.
Is that where you still are?
I'm in that mode of I've made the decision, but I'm not contemplating anymore.
Or saying, if there will be a change.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to follow up on that.
I don't know how deep we can get here, Adam.
I'm just curious, your kind of change of philosophy on that. Like for example, last year in the playoffs, you came out and said, "Hey, I'm starting Gerald tonight," and we all did. Like, it seems like there's been some shift in revealing that.
Yeah, I don't think I knew the rules. Nobody told me the rules when I got here. You know, they just sent me out here to do the media sessions before every game. Nobody said I didn't have to say it. So, yeah, I guess I'm learning every day. And then still contemplating the rules.
So you were doing it because you thought you had to, basically.
Yeah.
In the past. Just real quickly on Al in general, what makes him a good defender?
Just awareness. His awareness is elite. He knows every action in the league that anybody would possibly run. He understands when it's the right time to give help, when it's not. You know, just watch just simple things like when he and Baines are back in transition, they're back at the nail or the top of the key, and they are in a stance like this and taking up so much space. And just that idea of making the floor appear crowded to start a possession is enormous. And then being able to basically anchor and communicate our defense through the action while still usually guarding, you know, the best forward on the other team. I mean, it's really hard. And, you know, this year I think he took even more steps because, you know, last year we didn't try him on Giannis. We didn't try him on guys like Ben Simmons, you know, like this year those have been his matchups, you know, every other night because the league continues to get, quote, smaller, but just faster and more skilled at the four. And, you know, and now he's got, so you go through the playoffs and you have to guard Giannis, Ben Simmons, Kevin Love. I mean, that's a monster. But there's a reason why he's all defensive team.
Coach, the second half of the game 4, you guys were playing much better. Do you see that as a carryover to resume?
I think every game's its own entity. You know, I didn't think we played great the entire night. Obviously, the first quarter was poor. But the end of the first, end of the third really stood out as the times where we lost the game. And so that, to me, is, you know, those are the two times. And we have to avoid those, you know, big lulls like we had the other night. But we did some good things. I mean, it's been, you know, obviously everybody talked about the shots at the rim, but Cleveland was at the rim on some of those shots. It's not like going up for a dunk with somebody else jumping is an easy thing. Like, you know, some of those, yes, we'd like to have back and make them, but the other ones are contested. Maybe we kick them out. We just have to be more efficient offensively because a lot of those plays ended up in baskets the other way.
Brad, you've coached some high-profile rookies the last couple of years. Are there things you learned along the way, advice you received about how to keep guys fresh that went from a 30-game college season to, you know, playing 75, 80 games for you?
You know, not specifically. I think it's more about, you you know, our assistant coaches that are assigned to those guys, and Micah Shrewsbury has spent a ton of time with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum over the last 2 years, do everything they can to help expedite their learning curve. But it's not just that. It's everybody in the organization, our strength staff, our training staff, talking to them about the importance of diet, sleep, you know, extra work in the weight room to keep your body feeling good, extra work on your pliability. And you know, these guys are really committed to that. They both take care of their bodies at a very good level. And I think the messaging has been good.
Coach, right now there's so much conversation about home court advantage. I want to know, even at Butler, what do you attribute to that? Just because you know, people say it's, you know, the role players play better at home. What have you seen since being at Butler and then being in the NBA? What have you learned from that, and what do you see from that?
Well, I don't know what the stats are as far as like road and home records, you know, over the course of all levels. But it's, you know, there's a reason that you play for home court advantage. That being said, you know, you've got to be able to win in any venue on any night. And, you know, pretty obvious that we haven't been as good on the road. And when we get that opportunity on Friday, we need to play better. And that's the bottom line. And at the same time, we recognize that when you're at home, you better play well. You know, your focus still has to be between those lines.
Brad, Joe Varden, Cleveland.com. I have two for you. The first one is the Cavs have 59 turnovers in 4 games. And, you know, LeBron loves to throw crazy passes because he can, and Love likes to throw that home run ball. Is this team easier to bait into turnovers than other teams you play?
No. No, I wouldn't say that's ever a part of our discussion. We're trying to make it as hard as we can on those guys. The Love pass to LeBron was a joke. Not just the pass, but the catch was a joke. And, you know, it's funny, because we went through the transition stuff, and we're mad about our transition. And everybody's looking at me like, come on. Like, you know, we went for the ball. We were there. We were in perfect position, and he jumped up and caught it. But I think that the one thing we're trying to do is we're trying to keep our shell intact and make it as hard as possible. And with that comes some disadvantages too, as have been talked about quite a bit. But I think, you know, the more that we can, you know, stay attached to everybody else and make it as tough as possible, the better.
And then the other one is, how is Kyrie? Not his health, but, you know, obviously he played for Cleveland for all this time, and now he's watching this series, and I don't think anybody's gotten a chance to talk to him from the media. So I'm just, where is his mind? Is he processing this okay? What has he shared with you?
In our sit-downs, and I, you know, obviously see him regularly, but in our sit-downs or just our casual conversation, he seems to be in a great place. You know, it's killing him not to be out on the floor. But I think that would be the case, obviously, anytime you're playing this deep into the playoffs, and especially in a new place. But, you know, other than that, his recovery's gone great, and we're excited about that. But he seems to be in a good place.
Brad, have you heard any more from the training staff about Shane, just where he might be for the rest of this series?
Shane is out tonight, and, you know, I'd say, like I said before, very doubtful for any portion of this series.
Brad, how do you balance defensively not overreacting to LeBron, but also knowing that you can't show him a steady diet of anything?
Well, I think that's the greatness of him, you know. And I think, you know, obviously I've been asked a lot about Terry being on him, and there were, you know, I think he scored 7 points with Terry on him in isolation. He scored 37 others. You know, I think that ultimately he's a tough guy to guard. You can't show him one look. You have to keep mixing it up. We're trying our best to keep everything in front of us, to play with active hands, to try to make sure that it's at least difficult. And then we got to be better on everybody else. You know, if you look at Game 3, everybody else had their biggest scoring game of the series. We were a little bit better in Game 4, but not as good as we need to be. And, you know, again, we're trying to make it as hard as we possibly can with a number of different guys, and it's one of the great strengths of our team. But, you know, he's a great player for a reason. And you know, hats off to him, but we're going to keep trying to make it hard.